Hey guys, it's me, Nalthazar here, and while messing around in the training grounds today, I found a new deck that I think is really fun, and so I wanted to showcase it and share it with you all. I got the idea for the deck because while trying to get Gemstone Caverns today out of the Elite Plus pack, I only had 2 cards left, and I wound up getting Sword of Sinew and Steel before I got the Gemstone Caverns. If you saw my video about the deck Land Ho, you'll know why I want Gemstone Caverns, so if you don't, go ahead and check that out. And so when I got Sword of Sinew and Steel, I realized that, well, I've already got Sword of Truth and Justice. Is there anything that I can do with this in Standard? Now, I don't personally feel like the swords have a very good place in the game right now, if you have most of the cards, which I do, because a +8/+8 buff with the ability that it gives isn't an especially strong ability. I do actually think that Sinew and Steel has a place in decks in the Elder Spark PvE Coalition event, because the destruction of a Vanguard every turn is going to be very useful. But in large part, they're sort of niche plays. I am hopeful that they will ultimately be given the Protection From ability that they have on the paper cards, but I digress. So it got me thinking what would be really fun to pair them with. And so, of course, the first thing I thought of was Krenko. If you know me at all, you know that I love tokens, you know that I love goblins, and so, of course, I love Krenko. And Krenko really benefits from the swords because each sword that is on Krenko is going to boost Krenko by 8 power and make him produce 8 more tokens every time he attacks, which is pretty strong. And that got me thinking, well, it would be really cool to pair that with Tillinolli's Skin Shifter too, because this will also get the power boost that Krenko is getting and cause even more damage. So I was like, all right, well, let's see. How about Finale of Devastation? That's going to be 8 more damage. Although with Krenko and the Skin Shifter down, you're getting 8 for Krenko. If you've already got any of your Goblin tokens down, which you probably will, you're going to get 8 more to the tokens. You're going to get 8 to the Skin Shifter, and then you're going to get yet another 8 to the Skin Shifter from Krenko. So you get plus 32 damage from the Finale of Devastation, not including whatever you're fetching with it. The other cards in the deck are largely self-explanatory. Blue Sun Zenith is going to draw us cards and get us mana. Killer Instinct is going to be fetching us a creature every turn. It's going to eventually fetch us a Krenko, and once Krenko gets down, he's going to make tokens, and with the tokens, he's going to stay on the battlefield. Rupture Spire is going to give us mana, and paired with Death Sprout, we're going to get it more consistently. I use these in pretty much all of my 3-colored decks. And to round the deck out, I wanted to try out another new card that I recently got, Vivian, Nature's Avenger. I think this is a kind of fun, gimmicky card. I'm using it in large part because it fetches a creature, and also with the -6 ability, target creature you control gets +10/+10. And so Krenko gets +10/+10, which means he's making 10 more goblins. And if you've got the Skin Shifter down, it's also going to be getting the additional +10/+10 from Krenko. So you're getting a +30 damage for having Vivian, Nature's Avenger down. All in all, what you're going to see is that everything is buffing Krenko to get more tokens, and the Skin Shifter is going to get all the buffs that Krenko gets. And so you're just getting a lot for the buffs you're getting, right? So this starting hand is nothing special. I'm actually going to be freezing down the sword here, but I want it to be charged up. I'm doing it this way because ultimately my goal is to try and get the sword attached to Krenko. And so with this hand, I'm just going to pull the Rupture Spire up. I want to try and make it so that it's as likely as possible that I'll get a Krenko as quickly as possible, and then also boost him up. Because I'm using Sarkhan Unbroken, I can't use the 3rd ability. There's nothing in the deck that has 6 power. I don't really care about the token that he produces, so you'll see me continually using that +1 ability, or it's not +1 in Puzzle Quest, but the first ability to just draw cards. The card draw is ultimately going to get us to Krenko more quickly, and we want that. So if you're wondering why is it that you're only using the first ability, that's really what's going on. Now, yes, I could go ahead, play the sword, pop a dragon down, and get some good fun laughs out of that, but that's not the point of the deck, so I'm not going to be doing that. Now, At this point, I'm kind of just, as I said, fishing for a way to get Krenko. So you're going to see me using the Rupture Spires. I'm trying to get to the Killer Instinct. I'm going to finish charging up Death Sprout first. I see that Kiora is ready to play a card, and in the event that the card that Kiora wants to play is not going to be friendly, I want to be able to deal with it. I like to play on the side of safe. That Fungus Lord can actually be a little bit on the scary side, so I'm going to kill it. And you'll see that I'm keeping the Sword and Sinew still locked down. I'm keeping it locked down still so that my opponent doesn't match it and make it lose a shield, because Killer Instinct's going to be getting us a creature next turn. We will be getting the Killer Instinct down, so it's just keeping my board position pretty safe. It also is going to make it so that when the Rupture Spire pops down here, the Rupture Spire doesn't hurt the shield to the sword. The swords only have 2 shields, so unfortunately they break pretty easily. Unfortunately, the first creature down is the Skin Shifter, but that's really not a big deal because we just got a Finale of Devastation. I still don't need to play Sword of Sinew and Steel. Remember, the creature that we wanted attached to is Krenko. So I'm going to wait on all of this. I'm waiting on all of this even though I have the Finale of Devastation ready to come down, because I wanted this guy right here. So now that I have Krenko, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start letting everything else happen. Now that everything else is going to happen, it's going to start getting pretty nasty pretty fast. Now, this happens to be a really slow version of this game, and I'm saying it's a really slow version of the game because what all is happening here is kind of in slow-mo. Usually, when I've played the deck, the game just sort of ends by like turn 5, and I've got like 100 to 120 power down from Krenko and the tokens and the Skin Shifter. I know that because this is a masterpiece heavy deck, this isn't one that everyone watching this video is going to be able to make, and I'm sorry about that, but I figured it would be a kind of cool opportunity for you guys to see some of the different decks that are possible when you build up your collection. So with this, we've got the Sword of Sinew and Steel. We've got a lot of duplicates here in our hand. I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to use this -1 ability to give a creature +3/+3. I'm giving it to Krenko. I know that this is match over. There's really no good reason to do all of this mean stuff to Kiora. I'm going to throw all of this away in the very rare chance that Blue Sun actually goes off this turn, and not only goes off, but then proceeds to give us some crazy match, which it doesn't do, which is fine. But nonetheless, we get to see Krenko making a bunch of tokens, and we're going to swing for the win. Now, I'm also not using Path of Discovery in this deck, even though Path of Discovery pairs so well with Krenko, because it makes the game take forever, because all of the individual Explore matches take a long time, and I have another Goblin deck, I might post it later, that just makes hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Goblins each turn. Yeah, so that was the first match. I'm actually going to go ahead, I don't usually do this, but I'm going to go ahead and play a second match with this, just so you can see it working again. Maybe it'll work a little bit faster, maybe it won't, but you saw it sort of working at like a weak level there, and even at a weak level, it still is pretty nasty. Oh, dearie me, RNGesus. Okay, 3 Killer Instincts. You know, it was really not that bad to get 3 Killer Instincts in a way, because you've got Killer Instinct, but it is kind of fun to have different cards in your hand to be able to do different things. I immediately just lost all of my respect for this Elspeth because this card is garbage. So probably no matter what else this Elspeth is going to do, it's going to get stomped on by my deck. So that's too bad, but you know, it's okay. So the Elspeth isn't really doing too much to scare me here. I'm just going to keep playing. This is going to be a 5 match, so it's going to get me another match. And, ooh, it looks like I'll be 1 mana short of dropping a Krenko down this turn, which is too bad. I could take away some of Elspeth's white mana, but I don't really need to do that for the simple reason that I outlined a turn ago, that Elspeth does not scare me at all. At least not in this version. Elspeth can be a pretty scary planeswalker, but this particular Elspeth is not scary. So we're going to get the Krenko tokens out. We're going to be charging up the sword so that we can get even more Krenko tokens out, just make him even scarier, because let's face it, the swords can be pretty scary when you're running a creature like Krenko. All we're getting right now are Krenkos, so we don't need that, but it's okay. I'm going to be charging up Death Sprout instead. In the event that you're wondering, why are you charging up Death Sprout instead? It's because it's going to get a Rupture Spire, and with the Rupture Spire, we're going to have even more mana, and with even more mana, we're going to be able to hopefully play more things from our hand. Rupture Spire, in my opinion, in the event that you're wondering, is a bit of a mistake. That card should not have been printed the way that it is, and as it has been printed, it definitely should not have been an uncommon. So yeah, that's just my quick thought on that. We've gotten 4 Krenkos, which is rather exceptional. If you think of the RNG probability here, it's really low that you're going to get 4 Krenkos in a row, but it's not that bad. You know, like getting a bunch of Krenkos is definitely not going to hurt you. The Sinew and Steel here is just going to make a whole bunch of Goblin tokens. So here we get to watch the Goblins become big boys. I think it's, 19 Goblins this turn? So, I mean, even if Elspeth winds up killing Krenko, the Goblin tokens are going to become 38 in power. 37 now. And they're still going to kill Elspeth next turn. So even if Elspeth manages to kill Krenko, she's still dead. We get the Skin Shifter. It's not actually going to get to show us its beautiful power, but really, once again, not that big of a deal. Krenko is going to produce us 20 more Goblin tokens, which is going to get the Goblin tokens to, 49? Right? Did I? I think I got that right. So this will be the last match I'm going to play, but in summation, the deck is focusing on getting Krenko. It buffs Krenko. The longer that the match lasts, the bigger your Goblin tokens are going to get. There's a lot of synergy in the deck. It's a lot of fun. So if you wind up getting both of the swords, or even just one of the swords, and you want to try out a deck using the swords, I would strongly advise that you throw this together, hop on into the training grounds or an event that requires you to create creature tokens or summon multiple creatures in a turn, and give it a shot. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.